From a little cover, I got my dreams in sight. Wrestling on the mat, I go and put up a fight. With every hold and slam, I rise to the peak. Now as Professor Bear, it's my strength that they see. Roaring with knowledge like a lion so proud. In this wrestling world, I'm standing out loud. I'm Professor Bear, got the passion to spare. Wrestling's my life, with the power to share. From the roots to ropes, in the spotlight we gleam. Chasing victory dreams, living out the theme. Now my WOSN, my squad.
Yeah. Hey, new beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul.
With my boys crew, we'll always ride. In the wrestling world, one just claim the prize.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. I am Professor Bear, and this is a Bear's Thoughts. And today, boys, girls, this is another great interview with another great promotion today that we're highlighting. They are based out of Texas, and this is the Dallas Federation Wrestling All-Stars. And representing them, I have Lou Gotti. Lou, how are you doing today, sir?
Wonderful. Just want to clarify, DFW All-Pro Wrestling Academy. We're also pretty much like the subsidiary of Pro Wrestling Dallas, which also runs VIP wrestling. So we got a lot of stuff going on, but I appreciate you having me, boss man.
You're welcome, and I apologize for the mistake. So the question that I generally start with all of my guests is, how did you become a wrestling fan?
So just like most people, I was a huge wrestling fan as a child. From the Sergeant Slaughters, the Hulk Hogan's, to Bret Hart's, to Shawn Michaels, to Ultimate Warriors. I kind of got away from it when I got to middle school. In high school, I got into collegiate style wrestling myself, and kind of got away from pro wrestling. My 11th grade year, I came home one day and my little brother was watching wrestling, and I kind of made fun of him, and that's when like SmackDown started. It was like 1998-ish, and I sat down and I watched it, and I became hooked all over again. So I would probably say like a good 4-year hiatus, 5-year hiatus, and then I got hooked all over again, even more so than I was as a child.
It seems like a lot of times we feel like we grow out of it, or we have that pause, but something always brings us back to it.
Exactly.
So how did you go from just being a fan to getting into the business?
Wonderful. Great question. So it all started once I became super obsessed with it. I started to do the backyard wrestling at first, which we're not supposed to talk about that, right? But I started wrestling a guy I work with. He had his own little like living room federation, and then we moved to the front yard, and then we moved to like a big field, and then I kind of started my own little thing with them, and then after that, I actually ran a show. I'm originally from East Cleveland, Ohio, at the MLK Center. I was only 16 years old. My uncle rented it out for me, and we paid this guy to use his boxing ring. It was so bad, and it was at that moment when I realized we didn't know what we were doing, and we were embarrassing the wrestling industry. So a bunch of us decided that we're gonna seek live like actual training and become legitimate. I'm the only one that followed through on that mission. I searched far and wide, and I found Cleveland All-Pro Wrestling, which was based in Cleveland, Ohio, ran by a man named JT Lightning. JT, if I'm correct, started in the business in 1991 or 1992, and then this was 2000 when this was going on, and I started training and never looked back.
That's cool. That's cool. So, when you and I'm curious, when you realized that y'all didn't know what y'all were doing, what was the telltale, like, what in the hell are we doing?
Well, putting together the show, like normally when you do like backyard wrestling, we weren't like figuring out finishes or anything like that. We were just wrestling until we were tired, and so like here, we had to be a little more structured. We didn't really tell the venue what we were doing, so they almost shut it down. Nobody knew how to run ropes. None of us actually knew how to properly take bumps. Um, I think we had 4 matches. I was, of course, the main event, and my match was probably the best, but it was terrible. So that just it was absolutely god awful. And we recorded it on someone's like camera, and I don't know where that tape is now, but I hope somebody found it and burned it. It was so bad. Um, and it was, I think we may have had like 13 people in the crowd. Maybe 3 of them actually paid, and the tickets were only like $5. So obviously nobody got paid, and it was just like the realization, like, and then the looks that people gave us, like they never really saw real wrestling. We're in the inner city, but nobody had proper gear. It just, looking back on it, like I said, it's an embarrassment to what professional wrestling is, and I really wanted to be a promoter. My second day of training, JT asked me what I wanted to do in the wrestling industry, and I said to him, and I started training when I was 17. I said to him that I wanted to go to WWE only so I can have my WrestleMania moment. Then I would quit WWE and start my own thing and be bigger than Vince McMahon. So everybody kind of laughed at me, but like my end goal was always to kind of run my own thing and train people. And then what makes it even worse is I went to a couple little wrestling camps before I actually started real training at places that would let you come for free. And what little bit I learned, I was teaching these people, and come to find out, the two places that I went to weren't even legitimate training places either. So they were telling me incorrect stuff, and then I was sharing that incorrect stuff to other kids, and we could have broke our necks, or you know what I mean? It's just
Right.
yeah. So, but just watching it back, and just knowing, I guess, how good wrestling is supposed to look like, and what we're supposed to look like, it was a reality check.
And would you change your um would you, if you could go back and change all of that, would you change the way you learned wrestling, or would you go through it again? Do you find yourself being very appreciative of learning the correct way, but doing it the wrong way actually help you appreciate it more?
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything because I had a lot of growing up to do. At that time, I was into a lot of things you can't really talk about on the air, but when people say, "Oh, wrestling saved my life," it really saved my life. I really was going on a bad path. Just a couple years prior, I lost my mother to breast cancer. My father was a crack addict. I was helping take care of my then. My one brother was 2 years younger than me, and my other brother was only like 3 years old. And I was working 40 hours. I was cutting school. I almost didn't graduate. I was just lost, and then I've always been kind of like a leader, motivator, coach, but I just didn't have any actual guidance. So I learned a lot of hard lessons, a lot of lessons that I regretted at the time, but it's helped shape and mold me to who I am today. It makes me a better coach, a better leader, because I made so many mistakes early on. Very early on, I made a lot of mistakes. So I wouldn't change anything now that I see where it has placed me, and what we're doing here in Dallas in the professional wrestling in general.
So, with that being said, how did you get involved with WF? Um, Jesus, I'm sorry, WF. I'll keep again. As I tell everybody, I am an old man. I have a slip of the tongue. Sometimes the brain don't click like it need to click. But I
No worries.
mean DFW. How did you get involved with it?
So DFW All-Pro Wrestling is my creation. So the when I moved here to Texas in 2013, I was actually moved here. Well, I started promoting my own live events in Cleveland in 2004. I started a group called Hard Knot Wrestling, and then we changed it to Live Action Wrestling, and then we went back to Hard Knot Wrestling. And I ran that roughly from 2004 to about 2012 or 2013 ish. I received an opportunity for my shoot real job at the time to lead up and and create a call center here for a Fortune 500 company. So that's what moved me to Dallas. I had no intentions of leaving Cleveland. I had my own training facility, which was called the Cleveland Dungeon, and then I had Hard Knot Wrestling, and I was still wrestling maybe about 8 to 11 times a month. So I was pretty busy, and I had a bunch of titles, and I was doing pretty well for myself. But I couldn't pass up on that opportunity financially. Plus, I had a family. I have 4 kids, so I just thought that was the best move, and it really was because although it brought me here for work, it created other opportunities. We started VIP Wrestling, which is kind of like the parent company. I guess the best way to describe it is VIP Wrestling is like our Raw, SmackDown, and then DFW All Pro is technically our training center show, but that's like our NXT. But that was kind of like the concept before like NXT kind of blew up. Um, so after running VIP Wrestling for a couple years, January 2016, we opened up the DFW All Pro Wrestling Academy, which is paying homage to where I'm from, the Cleveland All Pro Wrestling. I just felt that this area needed better training. We had a lot of like a lot of talent down here, but I felt as though a lot of the fundamentals were lacking, and at that time they didn't really have a lot of really legitimate schools down here. I partnered up with a gentleman named Little Tony who he was training people in his backyard. It wasn't backyard wrestling, but he was training people in his backyard. It was really good training actually, and he's a second generation wrestler. He runs Big Texas Wrestling. He's also my partner here at DFW All Pro. Myself, him, and 3 other individuals started because we were like, we got to find a facility, we got to get a ring, we got to do. Well, we already had a ring, but we needed to be able to sustain ourselves while starting a wrestling school, and we found the place called All Powers, which was like an MMA school, and we had a little back corner, and we put our ring in there, and DFW All Pro Wrestling Academy was created. And that was actually 10 years ago, January 2016. That was 10 years ago. October we'll be celebrating 10 years for live events. But yeah, about 10 years ago in January is when we opened up our doors to start training people here in Texas.
So, I find it interesting that not only are you doing shows and doing a training facility, a lot of people would just focus on the one.
Mhm.
What motivates you to do both?
So I would say my main passion right now, because I'm still an active professional wrestler. I was just the AIWF World Champion. I was traveling around the world defending that title. I'm a trainer. I'm a booker. I'm a promoter. I like to say I'm a trainer first. Like just sharing the business and helping teach it the right way and leaving the business better than how I left it. It all connects to me. It all connects from there. Me being an active wrestler, I can kind of keep tabs of what's still going on in the industry, having, a good foundation and tradition, but also know what's changing, uh, how it's growing. So, and then as a promoter, kind of keep upbeat to what the fans are looking for and what the fans want and what keeps them on their feet and buying tickets. And then as a trainer, just making sure the fundamentals and tying all that together. So like it's all all together for me. So it's kind of hard for me to just focus on one because they all connect together for me. I can't. It's hard to do one without the other. Especially since, like, I would say number one would be a trainer. I would say my ultimate goal would be, like, if I'm 80 years old, I'm in a rocking chair talking about the 50 world champions I helped train, or I was a part of the process. So, like, that's my end goal. So I feel like all those together are align and connect together. So
Um, one something I took out of what you said was leaving the business better than you found it.
hmm
And what that's something that I truly believe in, even though I've never was a professional wrestler. I I do my podcasting and going out to watch the different matches, but I truly believe in that statement because of what wrestling gave me all these years. That just as a fan, it's helped me be able to just be able to disconnect from my world and the issues I'm having and everything, for a place where I can go for excitement, for something to get my mind off of real life. And it is something I'm very passionate about. And I love hearing when people share that same mentality. I think it's wonderful. And with that mentality, wrestling will continue to live on way after we're gone. So I really enjoy hearing that.
yeah.
Um, with your training facility, do you have a certain time frame that you try to train your trainees to be ready?
Yes, because I come from, like, a corporate background, especially, like, running call centers. Metrics and numbers are very important to me. A lot of people don't know this, but we're arguably, and I know for a fact, just because it, a lot of the aspects are not from professional wrestling. We're the most structured professional wrestling academy in the world, and let me tell you why. One, we had a few WWE personalities that have come down here and tell us that it's not even this structured down at the performance center. So,
Right.
so for me to think that and then to hear that, so one, we have a very structured process and how you join our school. We just don't take anybody. Everyone has to kind of do a trial camp. They have to understand what they're getting themselves into. They have to pass a trial camp, just to even qualify. So as a business, I'm probably losing so many people, but that's okay. At the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's about leaving the business better than how I found it. So we can't just let anybody in. I do believe that everybody should have an opportunity to try, but everybody shouldn't be in the wrestling business. So I don't think it's my job to tell somebody they're too small, they're too little, they can't do it. I think they need to figure it out for themselves and see if they have the heart and dedication, determination, and drive to do this. So they have to do a trial process. Um, it's a 3.5 hour camp. It doesn't reveal too much of the business, but it does share enough for them to kind of have a better insight if this is something they want to move forward in doing. Also, another thing that's different from us is from schools. Other schools, they have like this. Well, some schools do have like separate classes, but we have completely and utterly different classes. It takes about roughly about 12 months before our students have their first match. Roughly about 16 months before they graduate the program. We have a system that we utilize to log in. You have to have a certain amount of attendance to qualify for your first matches. You have a certain amount of days in your attendance to have to graduate our program. Each we have a beginners class, a beginners phase two, a moderate class, an advanced class, and then we have a class that's just for our graduates. So and you have to pass tests to go from each class to each class, and then you also have to have a certain amount of days. And each class is designed specifically what we feel like as though you should be focusing on. Like the first class is focused on footwork, timing, conditioning. Second class is when you first start to give moves. So we don't even allow our students to give moves in the first 3 months. We need them to understand the safety behind of everything, taking pretty much everything for the most part. Um, And then once they get into that, then they transition over to modern class. That's when we start to really break down the psychology and methodology behind what we do, the storytelling aspects and history of professional wrestling, more extensive chain wrestling. And then once they get to the advanced class, that's when we start to really hone on practice matches and keeping their cardio and conditioning up. And that's when they start to develop their characters. We also have classroom settings where we do tape study and we talk about etiquette and we talk about a bunch of other different things. And then once they're eligible to graduate the program, which they have to have at least 5 matches, which they will get on our shows. We run 2 to 5 shows every single month where our student shows, so they have ample opportunity to take those talents and skills that they've learned in training and show that in front of a live audience, and then get direct feedback. And then with that, and when they're ready, and then they've qualified when they've gone through all the requirements, they go through a graduation process, which is a 23 point system to graduate our program. So, like I said, it's it's very hard. A lot of people that don't know, they just think that because I think we may technically be the largest or one of the largest training facilities, because technically we have, in terms of like not size, but in terms of like students, we technically have over 100 students, but we have breakdown classes, so it's not like 50 people in the class or 100 people in the class. We have breakdown
Right.
systems on how we do that. So and then to graduate the program is really, really hard. So if someone says they're a graduate from DFW All-Pro Wrestling Academy, they've been here for a while, they stand the test of time, they've invested, they know that this is something they're gonna do. They're not like in it for it. Like some places say 3 months, we get you TV ready or something like that, and then they wonder why they're not the champ in their 5th month, or they quit in their 6th month. We want to make sure people are going to be here. They're invested. They really want to make themselves and the business better. So, like I said, it's a very, very, very structured process to get to our school. We've had some people who either quit or not do it just because it's too structured. They want to get out there and they want to wrestle right away. And most of those people, if not all of them, have not succeeded in their journey because they're trying to take the shortcut. So, but yeah, it takes roughly about 12 months to have your first match within the school and our student shows, and then about 16 months to graduate the program, and then you're unleashed onto the world of pro wrestling. But we still have a separate graduates class because our slogan is "Training is forever." So I would say 97% of our graduates are still actively training. So
What what stood out to me was the etiquette,
yeah,
because I think there is the unwritten rule of etiquette that most, if you depending on who trained you,
yeah,
don't know. They
mhm,
they have the ideal that, hey, I learned these moves, I watched enough wrestling, I can do it. I just go in, do these flips and everything. But the etiquette behind the scenes, and especially to veterans, I think is super important, because the tradition with traditional wrestling, I believe that unfortunately it's starting to be a lost art form because of everyone the the knowledge of things backstage. Almost everything is exposed. So to me, learning tradition and etiquette is is super important, and I
mhm.
think that will help get people um, further along in their wrestling journey, just knowing how to present themselves in the right manner.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Excuse me. I feel as though I have a unique skill set in the sense that one, I had a black mother, and two, I've worked extensively in corporate America and in hospitality. I was a manager at the Ritz Carlton, and then, like I said, I worked for some other Fortune 500 companies in the corporate sector. So, a lot of that is instilled in us in regards to work etiquette and just how to present yourself and how to talk and how to be professional at all times, even in situations that aren't as professional as you would prefer, and just how to approach bookings and introducing yourself. Like I have so many stories I hear about other students, which I would never name facilities or anything like that, but just how people would be at WWE or AEW doing extra talent, which is an honor and a blessing in the first place, and they'll be complaining that they're not being used, or they don't, someone else got a spot before them, and that's just, to me, that's just bad etiquette. Some people don't understand. Like, I think one of the first things I teach my students, I teach them a lot of things, but this business doesn't owe you anything. The very first day at training, I reiterate that we're going to do everything in our power to provide you the tools, but it's up to you to build the house. And just remember, I and nor the business owe you anything. You that's up to you. So we're going to give you the facility, we're going to give you the tools, and it's up to you. I feel as though a lot of people enter our industry with a level of entitlement, or they just think things are going to happen like right off the bat. And I think that's something that we check right off the bat. We're very transparent. We're very open. We let them know. I mean, we're very tough, but we're like a family too, in a sense to where, like, I'm real big on respect. As long as you're not disrespectful and you're doing what we're asking you to do, then you don't have to worry about me yelling or screaming at you or anything like that. And then usually, if I ever have to yell or scream, it's to everybody. It's not singling anybody out. And if it is a one person situation, I pull them aside and we talk to them candidly. Because, like, if you want to test the measure of a man or a woman, you talk to them privately, but in front of people, everybody feel like they gotta be strong and not look weak or whatever, things like that. So I address the class as a whole, or I pull that person aside individually where no one else is aware of it, and we have a candid conversation on what they need to work on, what they need to fix. And I feel as though that's been very successful and instrumental on people understanding, like, this business doesn't owe you anything and you need to put all in the work.
I tell you, I find that amazing and great at the same time. Not that I'm knocking anyone else's training, but I truly believe that's a recipe for success.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the structure that you have in place. I think a lot of times that people who are not used to having structure generally will rebel, won't get in, and it takes some time for you to have to, like you said, be candid with them to make them understand. And also the fact that the business owes you nothing.
Right.
It is, and I think it shows in each individual their level of how much love they really have for the business. Even if you don't succeed as a wrestler, there's so many other things you can do in the business to be successful. I mean, there are a ton of referees that used to be wrestlers that excel as being referees or commentary or managers. There's so many different things that you may not get credit for, but you help tremendously when you do it as a wrestler. Like I love to say this, that wrestling is the ultimate team sport, because not just two wrestlers can make a match.
Right.
You got to have the referee.
Right.
You need, if you're on TV, if you're doing TV stuff, you need the commentary team to help tell your story for maybe the people who are just seeing it for the first time, or help accentuate your match. So again, the cameraman being in the right spot, getting the right angle. So it's just so much of a team sport that people don't get credit for, and have the ideal of, oh, I'm the star, it wouldn't be nothing without me mentality quickly learns no.
Right. And I'm so glad you said that because that's another thing that I feel like is we do. We do. I don't know if others do it, but we do. Um, to to train here to graduate as a manager or a referee, you have to train a few. I think you have 5 to 6 months as a professional wrestler here first. It's a lot of aspects of psychology and just feeling certain things, and understanding things that helps you a little bit better when assisting as a manager, as a referee. And most of our students, they from day one, they know they're part of the show. They're helping with security. They're helping with the camera work because we stream live on Title Match Network. Um, they can be taking tickets at the door. We could put a goon mask on them where they jump people, get jumped, catch some dives, clean up on aisle six. No, I'm joking, but they understand that they're a part of the show in entirety, and like I said, they're from day one. Um, they're a part of it. We start new classes every 3 months. That's another thing that's different about us. We don't just have you start whenever you want to. Like, we make sure we take no more than a certain amount of people every 3 months, and they all start together and they grow together. And we just started a new class in February, and the majority of them got, well, they all kind of got like a pass because we had an event the very next Friday, and they started on Monday or Saturday, and it was like, you guys aren't obligated to be at this one because it's so soon. But they all showed up. They were all ready. They were all helping out. They all did everything from setting up the ring, to camera work, to well, everything, and that's a good start. And I let them know from the beginning that's what's going to determine where you go in this business, because you understand the business as an entirety. You understand that we're all a big team, like you said, and then you get to see how things are created and how it's really all put together.
Ironically, last year I had a chance to come to Dallas to work a show with my co CEO, um, and this was the first time I actually had really been into the back. Now, I was in the back, but never went into the locker room.
Hmm.
I was in mostly hanging out in the gorilla position.
Hmm.
Had conversations with the owner. We went over what we were going to do in the ring. And one thing that I really enjoyed, just being able to soak in the before aspects of it, where guys and girls were in the ring, and it so happened to be an all cage match event. So got to step foot in the ring, and it blew me away. And I got to experience coming out of a curtain, having my theme song,
Hmm.
going around the ring, doing my entrance. And I always heard about the tunnel vision, but I never you hear stuff, but you don't understand it until
Hmm.
it happens to you.
Hmm.
And when I tell you, I stepped out that curtain, and as soon as I stepped out that curtain, everything went away. I couldn't hear my music. I couldn't see the fans.
Hmm.
It was a
Hmm.
tunnel vision to walk around the ring,
Hmm.
giving high fives and getting in the ring. I thought I was going to throw my arms out of socket from just trying to hype the crowd up. And it was such an amazing experience for me. And I thought, oh, wow, I see why people get addicted to wrestling.
Yeah.
Because if you have this feeling every time you go to the ring, wow, now I was blown away by it.
Hmm.
And the nice thing that I I enjoyed was the respect that not only I gave them, but they gave me back.
Hmm.
Um, I told them I had a chance to go in the locker room, and I was like, no, no, thank you. I didn't earn that, so
Hmm.
I didn't want to go because I felt like that's something earned.
Hmm.
And again, just the learning the process um, myself for being a wrestling fan for almost 50 years. It was an amazing thing. I actually got to go to a training class, see the boys and girls training and busting their butt trying to become wrestlers. That made me appreciate the wrestlers that much better, understanding the dedication that they're put into their craft. And I thought to myself, man, I wish I could record this so all wrestling fans could see and understand what everyone put into it to entertain us. It's just an amazing, it was an amazing feel.
Yeah. What show was that?
Um, that was oh goodness, I'm gonna forget their name and they're gonna kill me. Um, it's not Trinity. Crap, I can't think of it right off the top of my head, and I apologize.
Oh, no worries. I was just I'll give him kudos.
um, with so get after all the training and stuff, what is the booking style of your promotion?
What do you mean booking spot style? Like, what do you like?
Well, like, are you more of a traditional? Um, you have more traditional cars, or y'all implement high flying a lot, more sports entertainment based?
So I think I book more like I feel like wrestling is supposed to be more like the Walmart or like or maybe like uh, a carnival or something like that. Because, like, for example, you don't come just to see the bearded lady. You want to see the guy with the sword, the fire in his mouth, and a bunch of other different things. So I book wrestling to appeal to different audiences. We may have like a base or an emphasis, like DFW All-Pro is more so geared towards the family. However, we do have a variety of different things from lucha to strong style to big hoss matches to more main event style. And we have some super indie style matches because, like I said, we're trying to appeal to a different audience. And how I book my card is consistent with that as well. You know, the kind of flow as well. Well as like the VIP brand is more of a like a only book what I consider some of the top talents in the region, and then I bring in some of the top wrestlers from around the world for them to wrestle. Like, for example, from 2014 to right before the pandemic, if they were on the independent scene, they were most likely at VIP. I mean, we've had people like Jake the Snake. We have Keith Lee. We have Shelton Benjamin. We have the Dudley Boys. We have Low Key. We have Homicide. We've had John Morrison. We have Cody Rhodes. We've had the Young Bucks. We've had literally Brian Cage, like AR Fox, like whoever you could think of that was probably considered stars. Roderick Strong, Johnny Gargano. Um, they were most likely on VIP wrestling, and I feel like the point of VIP wrestling is to scour the region, figure out who's considered the top guys, who's main eventing everywhere else, and they bring them on one show to where I can say every match is a main event. Not just because it's a slogan, but it really is a main event because all these matches and all these people are main eventing all the shows around Texas. So, like I said, it's almost a short term goal for a lot of people to wrestle on VIP wrestling because that's the premise of that show, where every match is a main event, you know. But like I said, it's still the same feel. This match may be more of a hoss match. This is more of a main event fed style match. This match is more lucha. This is more like a super indie style match. So I appeal to all. Like, that's why we call our school DFW All Pro Wrestling. I love all wrestling, and I understand how all wrestling can kind of contribute to making a great show. So I'm not pigeonholed into like one style. Now it may be a premise of a style. Like I said, DFW is more main event style, you know, family show, with a little bit of this and a little bit of that sprinkled in to appeal to different audiences and different crowds.
Okay, and that I love hearing that. That is a great way to, like you said, appeal to uh, different audience and to bring in different fan base because they know they're going to get a premium action there.
And everybody doesn't like the same thing. You got to think about if you watch a sitcom, right? If you ever watch a sitcom, there's one main story, and there's always a secondary, if not a second and third story as well. You know, you have if you're watching, I don't know, you're watching Friends or whatever, and you have Phoebe and Ross or whatever. I can't remember their names, but and then they'll have like a sub story with one of the other characters and something else is going on and whatnot because maybe that main story doesn't appeal to you, and then maybe the secondary story will, or maybe a third story will. So I feel like wrestling is a lot like that, where we're keeping your attention, we're keeping you engaged, but we're also giving you a variety of different things, different storylines, different approaches, different feels, different styles.
That's very what I'm trying to think of a good phrase for it. It's very open because again, like you said, not everybody's gonna like everything, and maybe something this second, third act may be more appealing to them.
Yeah.
So that's very smart. What would you say your major goal is for the wrestling business? What when somebody looks back at everything you've done and accomplished in wrestling, what would be the thing that you would want them to say about your company?
We created more opportunities than anybody else. Once again, I think a lot of places, and this is just from I've been in this industry for 25 years, and I've been running live events for about almost 21 years now. And one thing I've noticed that's it's a consensus and consistency throughout this industry is a lot of places run a promotion and then they train people to wrestle for them. They open up a training school so they can build their own wrestlers. I feel like that's even happening still today. New companies are opening up and they're trying to train some people just so they can wrestle for them. We're a training facility that runs shows for our students. There's a difference. Like, we're not building these students for us. The goal is for them to move up and move on and grow. I mean, we'll always be home for them, but the plan is not for anyone to be at DFW All Pro Wrestling in 10 years from now because they don't have a choice. They come because they want to come back and they want to give back and they want to help us grow. But by that time, hopefully they've obtained their goals or they're still obtaining their goals. So ultimately, is to create opportunities, get people signed. Not a lot of people can say, like I'm not sure if you know who Michael Tarver is, but he was, and
Yes.
I was one of his original trainers.
Oh wow.
I was one of the original trainers for Warlow and AEW, and then we just got Maya World, who I was the original trainer for. She just signed to AEW. So, and then same thing, Killer K. She's BK Rhythm and WoW, and then we got a few other students making headway and doing things all over the world right now. So ultimately, getting people signed and even if not signed, creating opportunities for them so they can really, change wrestling. One thing I can honestly say, there's not a quality show in our region that hasn't had my students on the show, and that's a testament to the training, and that's a testament to what we're doing, and that's what we want. We want the industry to have nothing but DFW All Pro Wrestling students all over the world and changing the world, whether it be WWE, AEW, New Japan, smaller shows across overseas. I ultimately want to get people, like I said, signed and opportunities. And even some people that I didn't train, they were like not as known until VIP wrestling put them against some of the best wrestlers in the world. Like for example, a Keith Lee, a Ricky Starks, a ACH, a Shane Taylor, Brian Keefe. Some of these people were always great wrestlers. They're God-given talent, their hard work and their dedication. But it takes a partnership of a promotion to believe in them as well, and then bring in some of the best wrestlers from the wrestle, from the Chris Heroes to the Zack Sabre Juniors to the Pentagons. And I feel like we've been successful of doing that as well. You know what I mean? Like we've like a lot of like I think about I don't know if you are aware, but a lot of our former VIP champions almost all have gotten signed or had larger opportunities. Our very first champion was ACH, and he became Jordan. I think Jordan Miles in WWE. Keith Lee was our champion. Ray Rowe, who is Eric, a part of the Viking Raiders in WWE. Shane Taylor, who's Ring of Honor's six-man champion, former Ring of Honor television champ. Sammy Guevara, Ricky Starks is former tag team champion. You know what I mean? And then we've had other names, people who are already established, but they help contribute to the growth, from JTG to Homicide to John Morrison. You know, some of these people help us continue to grow the brand so that we can create a vessel for wrestlers to kind of grow and reach larger opportunities. This has never been the end goal for anybody, and I know that, and I let everybody know from the beginning. That's ultimately we're trying to build what we do here, so it builds you, and so you can get bigger opportunities, bigger plates, and you can make this a living. So like that's the ultimate goal. I want people, regardless if they, I have some people who don't like me, but it's mainly because they may not know me. Honestly, I don't really have situations with anybody. It's more so like they may think I'm a hard ass or a stickler on rules, because I'm traditional in the sense where I believe etiquette is important, fundamentals is important, and things like that. But once you get to know me, you start to realize I want the best for the people that are doing the work. If they're training, if they're working out, they're doing everything that they possibly can do. They're educated, their social media is good, they're hitting the road, they're getting the network, they're meeting people. Those are the people that have great conversations and relationships with me, because I feel as though a lot of people they may complain, but they're not doing their part, But if you're doing your part, I'm all behind you, and I'm all in all support. Even if you're not one of my students, like I said, some of those people I named, they're not my students, but we were able to partner. We were able to work together because they were dedicated and they did everything that they were supposed to do, and that's why a lot of those people have those bigger opportunities right now.
Another thing that caught my attention that you mentioned was social media, and I think that is something that is really big now in today's wrestling. I think that a lot of wrestlers do not understand how much opportunity they have through social media,
Right.
through doing podcasts like myself, to just doing you doing your own, setting up promos, any of that. It's such a great tool to use and to help get your name out there to people that may not have seen or heard of you. And
No, I agree. Most of my students, they are required to shoot promos from day one. Every single event, everyone has to shoot promos. They're required to shoot promos by a certain date. We critique them before they're allowed to post them. They have to do these things called gym grinds, showing that they're working out and they're in the gym. And because I believe WWE or larger companies, they want to be able to put together a promo package of showing where you started. Maybe you were 100 whatever pounds, and now you're 2 something because you've been a dedicated athlete from the beginning. So like a lot of that stuff is instrumental, especially in today's day and age.
yeah, I'm just really blown away with everything that your school does, and I want one for myself. I want to thank you for your dedication
Thank you.
to give to the wrestling business, help these young men and young women grow to become the better vision of themselves that they may not have known without your wrestling school, without your dedication to the business. So that's first and foremost. Secondly,
Thank you.
I want to thank you for continuing to stay in the tradition that you have set for pro wrestling. It's again, it's a lot of things that started off in older wrestling that kind of is starting to fade away. But it's companies and gentlemen like yourself that are keeping that tradition alive. And I believe that helps with not only the psychology, but learning to look back in the past to get inspiration and learn from who came before you can
Mhm.
also help you develop your own, see the psychology that they did with simpler moves
Mhm.
and to help just elevate them.
Hmm.
Um, it's a great thing that what you're doing. We as and I speak for the fans that may not understand this, but it's great to see schools like yourself out there continually to build the sport we love with not only great athlete but respect of the business, and to have them understand that the business owes no one, and if you get in this business you should try everything you can to leave it better than how you found it. So for myself, for your fans, for my fans, I want to thank you and give you and your team the flowers that you deserve, because anything that is done to keep the sport that we love alive, we definitely appreciate it and want to show love for that.
It means a lot, man. I appreciate that. I didn't know. Just to add to that, I realized a few years ago, quite some time ago, that it's not just a wrestling school anymore. You know, we spend a lot of time with these individuals, sometimes more than they see their family members, and a lot of these young people are growing up here. So, like, I've not only taken a role as a coach, but as like a father figure. And for some of these people, they don't have father figures. You know, so like being being aware and cognizant of what I'm saying and what I'm doing and how that represents us as a school, me as a person, and representing them as a coach, but then also like help guiding them in situations that may not necessarily be wrestling related, but it does affect them personally and on a wrestling level as well. I have quite a few students who thank me and my other coaches for being, you know, those that guidance and that kind of mentorship for them, and not just wrestling but in life. And I think that's the part that kind of hits my heart a little bit more, just because I realize I'm like, we're helping change lives and not just teaching people how to do some cool wrestling moves.
Well, and that's something very important, because like you talked about your own life, the way you grew up and everything you went through, you've seen it, you've been through it. So you are doing your best not to have other people have to go down that road. Show them that they have options, that they can, they're not alone. And that is something so important that's rarely talked about, I believe, in wrestling.
Hmm.
And for all the different wrestling events I go to, and if I'm lucky enough to stand around and get to talk to wrestlers and everything, the one thing I definitely, when I go to wrestling, I generally call it a family reunion,
Hmm.
because most people, I may not know them personally, but I've seen them, and the wrestlers know them, and we kind of form a family bond. And if, say, you don't make it to two shows, and the third show you make it back, man, you okay? We didn't see you. We were concerned.
Yeah.
So it builds, it builds that family structure that you can't. And I always think that wrestling is so different. Yes, football, basketball, you can have something similar, but with wrestling, it's a kind of a connection that is kind of hard to explain. But I believe wrestling fan, you can come from any walk of life,
Yeah.
and you say you're a wrestling fan, man, that's hours of talking,
Yeah.
hours of trying to figure out what you like, who you
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why that match going on. So it's just something that is so powerful, and I get so excited going to see indie shows, because to me, with that type of close atmosphere, you get so much more out of wrestling than the big ones. Not saying that the big ones aren't good and they put on great shows, but they don't have that bond the way the indie scene does.
Agree. I agree.
Um, Again, I truly want to thank you for making the time. Um, I'm so great. as a wrestling fan for, again, over 40 something years, I love to find out things that I didn't know. I love to be able to give my fans a story where they can understand more of behind the scenes and understand what goes into wrestling from a promoter's perspective, a wrestler's perspective, a referee, just different things that we take for granted so they can look at wrestling like, man, that referee was on point. I didn't notice that until after I heard this interview. Now I'm looking at the wrestler. I mean, the referee is seeing if they're in the space they're supposed to be. So I just love the learning aspect of it. So again, thank you for being willing to come on and talk. And you have an open invitation anytime you want to come back and just give an update or just talk about more about the school. I would love to have you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's amazing. I think I love what you're doing. Like I said, I love talking to like-minded individuals that love the business and care about the business the way that we do and want to keep it strong.
You are more than welcome. So, guys, girls, thank you for joining me around the campfire for another amazing interview. Again, wrestling is so much bigger and deeper than some people actually think about. Um, if you take the time to do some research on different wrestlers and promotions and stuff, I guarantee you're going to get a story that is going to touch your heart and make you more appreciative of a wrestling fan than ever before. Before I go, I always love to make this one of my last things to say. Please, 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 I cannot emphasize this more. Please go and support your local wrestling indie scene. You never know who you get to see in their journey and get to see people who love to entertain us. And maybe you see them on their journey, and 5, 10 years down the road, they may be in the majors as the world heavyweight champion. You just never know. So please support your local indie promotion.
Can I add something to the end of that?
Yes, sir.
Like you said, to support, just cheap little plug, please. I appreciate it. On Friday, we do have an open tryout or camp for anybody who's interested in becoming a professional wrestler, doing it the right way. All you have to do is message us on Facebook or on Instagram. Just look for DFW All-Pro Wrestling Academy. That's DFW All-Pro Wrestling Academy. In regards to information to joining that tryout camp to see if this is something you really want to do. And maybe you're just interested in just being a fan and staying a fan and watching the show. We have a huge show this Sunday. It's the biggest show of the year for us. Excuse me. It's the Sterling Silver Memorial Tournament. One of our students unfortunately passed back in 2000 due to a tragic accident. So we do everything in our power to ensure, although he didn't live his dream to be a professional wrestler, we're going to live it for him. And so in everything we do is for Sterling Haven. So we have a huge memorial show with trophies and titles and scholarships given away, a lot of action, title matches, everything you could think of in professional wrestling. It's 4 p.m. this Sunday at the St. Jude Center in Arlington, Texas, off of Cooper. You can get tickets and more information in regards to training and our shows at prowrestlingdallas.com. You can see right behind me, prowrestlingdallas.com. I appreciate you, Professor Bear.
Oh, it's no problem. And again, guys, girls, thank you so much for going on this fun journey with me and learning more about promotions. Again, no matter how much you think you know, you really don't know it all. And even the professor can be taught. And I'm so proud of that. So Again, thank you so much for joining me around the campfire one more time. Um, this has been an amazing interview. And as I said, come and join me again later on around the campfire for another amazing interview. I am Professor Bear. This is A Bear's Thoughts, and we will see you around the campfire very, very soon. Y'all take care.